Well, I'm a little late to the party for this one, as I'm sure most of you are aware. A while ago, I did a video saying why I wanted the PlayStation Classic Mini. I love the concept of it. It's probably in my top 3 gaming consoles of all time. It had a big impact on me as a player of games. Now, I talked initially when the first teaser list was announced, how they'd got some really tasty ones in there with the likes of Final Fantasy VII, Tekken 3, and one of my personal favourite RPGs, Wild Arms. The title Jumpin' Flash made me very hesitant, because it's a game that, as a European gamer, I've never even seen, let alone played. And it made me nervous that the list was potentially going to be underwhelming if they chose the wrong games. For those of you who have obviously seen the list of games and seen the many commenters out there like RG85, Metal Jesus Rocks and many others, the list is sadly very disappointing. There are many choices which are questionable, many choices that they could have gone for a better version of the same franchise, and some which made no appearance whatsoever, which was a real shock. Of the list of games that I projected, the only one I got right was Metal Gear Solid. I can half claim Resident Evil Director's Cut, although I thought Resident Evil 2 is the game they would have chosen. And considering Resident Evil 2 is much more fondly remembered, despite how good Resident Evil Director's Cut is, the Arrange mode in particular is fantastic. I still love that game, but it's nowhere near as exciting to play as Resident Evil 2. It doesn't have the same atmosphere, certainly doesn't have the same action style, doesn't have the same edge. Of the games that were chosen, they had one more RPG. Did we get proprietary licensed Alundra, which is available on the PlayStation 3 store? Nope. Did we get Breath of Fire 3, a game that Capcom promised to bring to the PS4 long after it was on the PS3 and PSP? Nope. Did we get a tactical RPG like, say, Front Mission 3, Final Fantasy Tactics, or my personal favourite, Vandal Hearts? Nope. We ended up instead getting the first Persona. It's a game I've never played, but from what I've heard, it's the worst of the entire series. And if they wanted a Persona, they could have at least put Persona 2, or gone with one of the aforementioned AAA hitters, which is much more fondly remembered. In racing games, well, they announced Ridge Racer Type 4. Bit of a iffy one, really. So, the obvious one, Gran Turismo 2, PlayStation proprietary exclusive, the game that Forza has forever tried to stand up to. Nope. What about Wipeout then? Really fast, flashy, all-out aggression, proper anarchy and techno, all 90s, perfect for PS1. Nope. What about some more arcadey kind of games then? You know, I mean, there was some excellent rally games out there. Like you had the original Colin McRae's, you had V-Rally. Yeah, they'd be alright. What about Max Power Racing? They were pretty cool. Nope. Instead, we got Destruction Derby. A fun game? And Twisted Metal. Maybe? Possibly a little fun, but both games very primitive. Both games don't hold up very well. If they were going to have a Destruction Derby game, they could have at least had Destruction Derby 2, which had bigger courses, the Death Bowl games, and just a much better atmosphere. They could have easily had that if they wanted a kind of like driving game. But here's a segue for you. Another game announced for the PlayStation Classic Mini is the original Grand Theft Auto. Why? It was a terrible port. It could only have 6 vehicles on screen. You couldn't get into the boats. You couldn't get the airplanes or the helicopters. It was slow, it was clunky, it was dull, it was empty. So why not fix that little issue of the driving games and the sandbox crime game, potentially, with one simple fix? Driver. Or Driver 2. Both still a little primitive nowadays, but they're a hell of a lot more cutting edge than Grand Theft Auto was. And they're also a hell of a lot more fun. They're also much more challenging. FPS games. Alien Trilogy. That was a cracking game. Nope. Oh, well, it's probably a bit much to ask for the PlayStation port of Doom, but it had really interesting lighting effects, and it had some different features, so yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Why don't we get that? How about the often overlooked Egyptian set first-person half-platform shooter game Exhumed? For those of us in America, called Power Slave after the Iron Maiden album. Yeah, that'd be a good game. Nope. Instead, we've got Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six. We didn't even get Medal of Honor. And the FPSs from the PlayStation 1 were frankly pretty terrible anyway. The only ones that were really any good were Exhumed because it was more like a adventure platformer than a proper all-out FPS. Alien Trilogy because it had good atmosphere, and Alien Resurrection, which pioneered the dual analog stick controls that are still used to this day. But other than that, PlayStation wasn't an FPS platform, so why did we even need to cover that base? Puzzle games. They've chosen Street Fighter Super Puzzle Fighter. Now, don't get me wrong, I love that game. It's a cracking game. But it's hardly a PlayStation classic. It's more a multi-platform classic. And then there's the really weird-looking Mr. Driller, which is different, but it's not a PlayStation classic. Because it's a game that practically no one remembers. Then there's the fighting games. We've got Tekken 3, totally agree. No issues with that whatsoever. But then they've given us Battle Arena Toshinden. Just, why? Why not, for God's sake, Soul Blade? And if you can't get Soul Blade for whatever reason, which I really doubt considering you managed to get Tekken, for God's sake, you got Super Puzzle Fighter 2. Why not switch that out for one of the Street Fighter Alpha games? How about Mortal Kombat 3? The arcade port that was the first to truly match the arcade before Soul Calibur did it on the Dreamcast. You could have even had some of the more experimental beat-em-ups like Ergahid. But no, you give us a sloppy, terrible 3D fighting game, which, as I say, the aforementioned Soul Blade kicked the crap out of. For one very good reason. Soul Blade was good. Battle Arena Toshinden was not. As I say, there's other stuff as well, like Siphon Filter is on the games list. And don't get me wrong, that's a fun run with the taser and everything else, but you've got Metal Gear. So if you're going to have a game that has the whole stealth and sneaking atmosphere in a military setting, Metal Gear Solid is what you will play. I don't know anybody who will choose to play Siphon Filter over Metal Gear Solid. So you've got that niche, leave it alone. You had the option to bring back Tenchu, one of the few ninja games involving proper stealth. A game that, when it was first released, was criticised by magazines because it was too hard. And yes, From Software, the guys who went on to make Dark Souls, made that game. It's in the blood that it's difficult. But by God, is it fun. And that's a PlayStation classic. Because until it went third party with Sega, you couldn't get it on any other console. It's a classic. It was a proprietary release. And there's so many other games that didn't make the list. None of the Tony Hawks made it. Which, again, I'm a bit puzzled by because they made their name on the PlayStation. Sure, they went multi-platform afterwards, but it was the PS1 game. particularly the original, that really kick-started that 90s skater game, really brought it into its own field. There's no Tomb Raider. Again, really surprised by that. Now, some of you might point to the fact that the most recent Tomb Raider game was a timed release exclusive to the Xbox One. Yeah. This isn't the new game. This is the originals. I don't see why we couldn't have had Tomb Raider 1 or 2 dug up. I'm pretty sure either of them could have been arranged some kind of agreement for. And they weren't exactly massive games. They weren't big discs. You've got the triple disc Final Fantasy VII, the double disc Metal Gear Solid on there. So a single disc Tomb Raider game? Yeah, no reason for it to be overlooked. No reason at all. As I say, it's unfortunately very disappointing. And when I've been thinking about the games I'd play on it, I'd play Final Fantasy VII again, because that's my favourite game of all time. I'd certainly play Metal Gear Solid again. I'd enjoy doing a stream of that with everybody. I'd play Wild Arms again. That's a fantastic RPG. No issue playing that. I'd possibly play Persona out of pure curiosity, but considering I've already got Grandia 2 that I'm going to do on my Streamcast channel at some point, well, not channel, but playlist, I don't really need it. Would I play Siphon Filter again? Well, no, because I've got Metal Gear Solid, which is far, far better. Resident Evil Director's Cut? Yeah, I'd probably play that. But then again, I've had a lot more fun playing Resident Evil 2 on the Dreamcast and playing Resident Evil Code Veronica on the PS2. And with Resident Evil 2, the new one, coming out on the next month, in about 2 months' time, playing Resident Evil 2 again on a stream on PlayStation would have been nice, but I don't need to do it. And I don't need to play Resident Evil Director's Cut. If I want to play a good version of the original Resident Evil, I'll boot my PlayStation 4 and play the Resident Evil remake that came out as a freebie last year and I've still got it on my hard drive. So this is the problem. Sony have unfortunately missed the mark. They have missed the mark by a long, long way. And it's funny. It makes me think that this whole classic thing needs to stop. Because I've now thought about it, and people like the collectors, people like to have the gadgets. It's nice to have the proper gear, rather than having apps and emulators, even though these mini things are an emulator. Having the option to sit there with a classic controller and playing it on your TV screen, that's what's fun. But when I've gone back and played on my Sega Dreamcast, on a Dreamcast, with the big controllers and everything else, I've actually felt more like a gamer than I have using an emulator. I think it's time that we put this whole thing to bed. It was a great novelty, but with the likes of the Neo Geo Classic, which apparently is dreadful, not played it so I don't know, those mini stand-up arcades, and that terrible Kickstarter, Indiegogo, wherever the hell it's coming up thing for the PC Classic Mini. Just stop. No. Forget it. I no longer want the PlayStation Classic Mini. It saddens me to say it, but I think it's time to leave those games where they belong. On the original system, on an original console, played on original setups. Because if we keep on trying to go for these minis, we're going to have the bar set here and the reality down here. And that's not what nostalgia is meant to do. You're meant to remember it like this, not cheapened like this.